Welcome to Leadership Today with Dawn McCoy. I'm so excited you're here for another edition of All Things Leadership. I'm so excited today to have a special guest with me, LaShanda Henry, who is the CEO and president of SisterSense.com, who helps and guides female entrepreneurs in the online marketing space. I am so excited for her to speak today and share more about what she does. As you know, leadership is a dynamic part of what we need to do to develop ourselves, and I want to just make sure that you can soak up everything that I have been able to learn about LaShanda in the last few years since I first got introduced to her work. LaShanda, thanks so much for tuning in today.
Thank you for having me, Dawn. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, I know I was just going to share with the listeners here that I got first introduced to you through Periscope. I was actually stumbling through and fell across your dynamic work that you're doing with Sister Sense and helping women and getting into the space of entrepreneurship and really getting started. But I would love to know if you could share with the listeners how you got started with Sister Sense, and did you intentionally set out to be a leader in the online marketing space?
Great questions. I fell into what I do today. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My mom was like, just like your great-grandmother, you always want to sell something, you always want to make money. That was internally into me. But there were certain aspects of entrepreneurship that I fell into because I didn't initially want to be a coach or a mentor. A social introvert, just kind of wanted to build websites, create content, and quietly have those things sell. But when I developed Sister Sense, it was just kind of me literally trying to make sense of making money online, blogging about trying different platforms, and, I tried this affiliate program, commission junction this, or ebook that, just kind of journaling. And in the process, people started asking me questions about, how did you make money blogging, or how are you working at home, and, how do you sell your stuff as a service professional and a web designer? And out of those questions, I literally came out of my shell, just answering people's questions, becoming like a pseudo mentor coach, and in that process, developing Sister Sense out to not just kind of be a journaling process of my entrepreneurial journey, but a support community where I could mentor, coach, and offer money marketing and sales solutions to people who were looking for it. So, again, it always internally wanted to be an entrepreneur, just kind of the direction of what that looked like for me evolved over time as I was interacting with people who were interacting with the Sister Sense brand.
Right. And that's phenomenal because it was like you didn't really fall into it. It was something that you had already been doing, some of the work already in different ways with web design and other work. So it's really, really remarkable. Do you think that there are specific qualities that you've developed in the leadership arena that other female entrepreneurs should have today, especially with the changing economy? Are there some specific qualities that you think are essential?
Absolutely. You've got to get out of your own way and, be confident, not quite cocky. It's always good to be humble, but to be confident. And I had to learn that as I grew. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. But, I fought to some degree talking to people privately one-on-one. I fought putting my picture online. I fought going on video. I only to a certain extent, because eventually, mama didn't raise no fool. So eventually it was like, girl, you better put up some pictures and get on some video if you want to make some money. So it's just, whereas, that more confident person or that more masculine, because men do things a little bit differently. They're more inclined to say, yeah, it's, I don't care if this is my first project. I want 10,000. I want 20,000 for that. Whereas we, number one, we're either hesitant because we're always trying to figure out if we're qualified or experienced enough to charge that much. Or number two, we're always trying to kind of mommy bear it. Ooh, I can't charge that. People in my circle, they can't afford that. I gotta be conscious of their pocketbooks as far as building a business, and more conscious about what they can afford versus how much I'm trying to make, right? So self-sacrificing, all of those things caused me to take longer to develop as an entrepreneur and generate more money, right? And then it also does that for a lot of women. So I would say Yes, some of this is a learning curve, but you've got to identify those places where you're either not feeling as confident or you're delaying your ability to generate a sufficient amount of money because you've got these other things, these mental chains kind of holding you back from building your best business.
Mhm, mhm. And let me just expound on that because I think that's profound, the work that you do. I've heard you say before it's not just the business work, it's the heart work. Tell me a little bit more about that because you talk about the chains and people have to get their mindset right. Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's funny because like many entrepreneurs who after a while you feel like you want to dismiss or you get tired of hearing certain words, you try to disassociate yourself from them, right? So, at some point I was that person who says, I don't want to talk about mindset stuff. I don't want to talk about that because everybody's talking about that. I don't want to be a coach. I'm a mentor. Everybody calls themselves a coach, But I'm going to be honest, in the process of me teaching technology and blogging and all of those pieces, those strategy pieces, I had people coming to me and saying, you are ministering right now. You're speaking to me. You're speaking to other people. I had people coming to me and saying, do you know you're an empath? Do you know you're a light worker? Do you know all of these heart-centered pieces that I didn't necessarily intend to put into what I was doing, but they were coming out. I can see you light. I can see your positivity. Oh, my gosh, you're changing parts of me. And in that process, while I was talking about here how you do social media marketing, here how you do online marketing, SEO, blogging, I was like, okay, here how you do the hard work, how you figure out those things in your mind that are holding you back, how you build up your courage, how you build up your confidence, because I was realizing that for all the technical pieces, none of that is worth a can of beans if you stop the motivation and then go, oh, that was great. I'm just going to sit here and wait till my next motivational audio. Wait till my next motivational video. But, yeah, I'm just going to sit there. So being in a space where I could do more, right, than teach the technical pieces but motivate people to break out of whatever personal chains were holding them back, that became a part of my mission as well. And, again, I initially disassociated myself from it and didn't see myself as that kind of person. And it was really the individual people who they came to me and said, let me just let you know. This is who you are, and this is what you're doing, so you need to own it, and you need to stand in that. You need to incorporate that more into what you do because we need that piece.
Right, to own it. And that's really powerful. And so many female entrepreneurs, female business leaders really need to hear that today. So that is really timely. I know that you have a number of events that you put together. I know I have been personally really rewarded by attending some of these, especially the virtual, the Back to Business virtual conference every year and some of your other events. Talk about what inspired you to start doing these events throughout the year, and you really you're pouring into others. You're bringing collaborations together and sharing. You've distinguished yourself. How did you do that?
One of my favorite sister signature sayings is, you've got to phase in your greatness. And as I'm sitting right here in my home office, I remember sitting in my apartment in North Carolina, my little apartment. Pre-having a home office, I had my little corner in my bedroom, right? I remember sitting there going, oh, I want a TD Jake-style conference. I want something huge, and I want to sell out and have all these people come out. And then, I started to sit there and process going from the feel-good to the real good of the logistics of hosting an event. And I was like, whoo, girl, you don't got that kind of money right now. So, I always tell people, in that space, number one, again, phasing your greatness. Number two, you can find a way or you can find an excuse. Right. I really wanted to create things that I could get people together. And so my way was, okay, I'm going to host an event. I'm going to invite 10 people. They're going to come out to, there was an Italian bistro in North Carolina, in Raleigh. And that was my first event. I started doing what I call Sister Socials. And then I said, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to start doing little meetup workshops. So right beside the restaurant, the mall, had a meeting space, this is Crabtree Mall, and I paid, I think maybe $200-300 to get the meeting space, and I did a couple of those throughout the year to build up Sister Sense socials. And I said, okay, now I want to do some more. So I got the hotel. I went to the Loft Hotel, and I said, okay, now I'm going to do some events. And, I do small events, so whether it be 30 or 40 women coming out and having me and a few other speakers speak, or literally having maybe 3 to 5 women work with me privately, I like to do those intimate style events. One, because it takes the pressure off of me to literally, as they say in the marketing world, get butts in seats. Whether it's a 5,000 people event or a 5 people event, you still got to do work, but it is a lot of work to put on events. So, I really just wanted to have experiences where, whether it be a virtual workshop or a live in-person workshop, I started to diversify the kind of content I was giving to the people in my community. You're going to grow, and the people within your community are going to grow. So you want to be able to provide them with new things at new levels as the both of you evolve.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So you're helping business leaders grow over time. Just not just a one-time shot, right? It's a continuum.
Oh yeah, it's. I always say you're my business bestie for life. So as you grow and I grow, we grow together. And I try to diversify the kind of experiences that I provide. So not only is it something that's beneficial for just my community overall, but it's diversification because you have different types of people, right? So those people who can come out to the live, great, or they can do the virtual, great, or they prefer the one-on-one, great. But just finding different ways and different touch points to reach people where they are, I just think it's just a smart thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good business and makes sense. And speaking of the business role, many of us are the mommypreneurs, or mommy role, and balancing that juggling act of family, having the business, maybe even other business or work and roles in the full-time work world. How do you best balance that role of mommypreneur, and what are some examples of some successes you've had, and maybe some kind of, we have to kind of triple up on events and family life?
That's a great question. I think that for me, balance comes on different levels. Number one, my son has been in the entrepreneurial world with me since the very beginning. When I'm trying to figure out how to make money in the very beginning, I'm breastfeeding. He's on my lap and I'm on the computer. He's going to events and they're like, "Oh, you're so cute. What does your mommy do?" And he's like, "My mommy's a blogger." Like the vernacular. He's been in it for a while. It's funny because I remember one day working on something. I was showing him the pictures, and he's like, "Mommy, are those pictures trademarked? Do you have the rights to use that?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But he's been ingrained in it. So a part of the balance is when you're not trying to isolate your family from what you do, and you're not doing it in a closet, that they're a part of the process. I always say my business is a family affair, and my boys, my hubby, and my son, they're a part of that process. Number one. Number two, I try to make sure that everything has its place. Now, for example, I have a live workshop coming up here, and it's 3 days, and so when I picked the dates, I was very conscious of the fact of, I've got to think about my hubby's work schedule, and there are certain times that he has like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, and he's like my in-house dude. He helps me with photography and all these beautiful things. So I know that my workshop falls on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday that he's off, right? It also falls during the Easter vacation that my son is off. So I try to create experiences where, again, we can do it together, and it's not a strain on anyone because everybody's got vacation time, and my vacation is every day because I work for myself, but that's a part of it. While I do speak on occasion, I try to only do those speaking engagements that allow me to do it with my family. So if I'm in Atlanta or Virginia or Vegas or wherever, we can go together. There are occasions where I have to go by myself, and it is what it is, but I'm always conscious of everybody's schedules. And also one of the reasons why I like to do a lot of virtual is because I can sit in my office and do my virtual, and then my hubby, he's sending me food. My son is coming in, checking in, taking the dog out, bringing me water, and no one has to skip a beat. They don't feel strained or, "Oh, mommy has me sitting here." in this crazy place for hours while she's doing her thing, and it's taken away from me being comfortable. So I would say those are some things that I strategically do to find balance, being conscious of my family schedules, them just growing up with me as in my business growth. They're accustomed to all of these things. And then also finding, the last thing I'll say to that is finding boundaries. So when my door is closed and they can hear me talking, if they want to come in, they might quietly open the door and say something. You know, some people, they feel flustered because they can't find any quiet space. People are barging in and yelling and screaming, and they're trying to get 5 minutes and they can't. I've created a space where it's very clear that I take my business very seriously, and everybody has to be respectful of that. And at the same time, when I turn off the phone, and yesterday we were watching Bumblebee, and it's just me and the boys, and we're going out. We had like some hibachi Japan fire flame in the air like 2 weeks ago. When it's that time,
yes, fun.
And enjoy being a family, I don't do any business, and I shut that off. So
that's
on the
point.
flip side, people can't just kind of call me at all hours of the day and hour. Like, can I talk to you right now? No. So, I mean, I'm very strategic and intentional about when I'm working and how clients have access to me versus when I'm mommy. And people have to be respectful on both sides. So I know that was longer than maybe you asked, but those are some things that work for me.
Oh, that's wonderful because, you know, so many folks don't know how to really strike that balance of having those boundaries and then also balance having that commitment but taking the family with on a vacation. It's a travel opportunity and otherwise. So that's really very, very important, and many people don't get that. So I know that will resonate widely for many. Tell me a little bit more, and in the time we have, I wanted to make sure to speak to some of the ways that you help business bosses, you know, the women bosses, girl bosses. I know you have a different approach with helping with the events, but talk a little bit about what you have going on in the next few weeks and also how people can get in touch with you.
Sure, absolutely. There are a couple of things that I always like to do with people. I am a web designer, so web design services is big for me on sistersense.com. I always like to kind of, wherever you are, provide people with what I call clarity, because if you can't get clear, you can't move forward. So one of my newest big goods, as I like to call it, is the Build It Boss. It's absolutely free. It's a book that you can grab, download, and read. And I talk about, number one, some of the tools that I've used to generate my most recent $300K in sales. And number two, directing people towards some of those really prevalent resources that I have right now. I love supporting and helping people get clear around their money, marketing, and sales goals. So in addition to the Build It Boss book, I do have resources like the Girl Boss Bundle that is full of money, marketing, and sales trainings. And I consistently try to have ongoing workshops, whether they be virtual or live, so that I can support ladies in my community. And, of course, I can say, go here, go here, go here, go here, and I mean just kind of like overload. But, I mean, I'm always conscious of people being overloaded. So I would say the easiest thing to do is, number one, you can grab that ebook over at sistersense.com/BIBE, which stands for Build It Boss ebook. It's free. And, of course, you can just go to sistersense.com and browse, get a sense of who I am, what I do, the services and the things that I offer beyond the web design services and the mentorship as far as, again, working on your money, your marketing, and your sales goals. So hopefully that's clear. But if there's anything else in there that you want me to, check in and talk about, I definitely can do that.
Oh, wonderful. I'm just so excited. This is jam-packed with information. Again, I'm talking with the one and only LaShanda Henry of sistersense.com. She has a wealth of information. She just shared out some wonderful website resources, sistersense.com for her primary website, and the Build It Boss ebook that can be retrieved at sistersense.com, BIBE. That's BIBE. Boy, igloo, boy, egg, let's just call it.
Well, I always say, it's Build It Boss ebook. If you just take the
Build
first
It
letter
Boss.
of those three,
That's Build It Boss book. I need to make sure I've got that acronym down. That's wonderful. Well, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners here before we sign off? I need to have you on again for like a full hour next time. This is awesome.
You know what? One of the things that I've been really pushing people to do, or rather compelling people to do, is to work on building your team. I love working with individuals in my circle who are go-getters and they implement. Dawn, you are one of those go-getters, so I definitely have to shout you out. And building a team of people like yourself and people who you can say, okay, not only am I teaching them and reaching them and working with them, but we've got this reciprocal experience where we're partnering together. Dawn, you've done videos and you're like, oh, my gosh, this is what's happening in such right now, and I love it. You need to go get it.
Yes.
And, when we saw each other in Virginia and you said, okay, LaShanda, here's the 21 questions book, and I was like, oh, my God, look at what Dawn created.
Absolutely.
The workshop training that we did, and you took the template that I created and made your book. Being in a space where you work on building your team and partnering with people and, finding that kind of balance is key because, yes, as an entrepreneur, you may find at some time or a lot of times you feel alone. You don't have to stay alone. In order for you to build a team around you, you got to be proactive. You got to get your ask in gear, ask people to share, ask people to work with you. And you might get a few people who say no, but when you get those people who say yes.
That's right. And I know, I'm so glad you said yes today. This is very exciting. The one and only LaShanda Henry of SisterSense.com. Please find her, follow her across social media. She's extraordinary, dynamic for all entrepreneurs, female and male. I want to add that for all the listeners. LaShanda, thank you so much for tuning in. And again, this is Dawn McCoy with Flourish Leadership Group, where I ignite your leadership to the next level. Stay tuned for another edition of Leadership Today, all things leadership, talking about how you can become a dynamic and extraordinary leader today. Until we meet again, be enlightened, be enriched, be empowered.